Metal Slug.
All right, main screen turn on. Let's get the volume all set. This is probably all right. It's on computer too. Way too loud, pardon me. Sorry about that. How's that?
I'm Lewis, and here is everything you need to know about the incredible
Lewis. It's Lewis. Let's go.
new edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar.
So this is everything we need to know. I'm ready. I'm ready. And I got some music queued up. That's less annoying. Apologies. The story
The
so
action has now
far.
moved to the Great Parch in the Realm of Fire, where the Skaven have launched their
Realm of Foya, by the way. Actually, it's actually...
plan to conquer the mortal realms. Actually will never be the same again.
Spearhead.
Engaging in intense tabletop battles in the mortal realms are easier than ever. The old Vanguard box sets have been replaced with Spearhead boxes, each representing a complete and balanced army with its own rules that are available to download for free.
All right.
Spearhead games are fun, action-packed, and super
Fun.
fast. You can play a game in less than an hour.
You can play a game in less than an hour. But, you know, we talked about Spearheads already, so fair enough.
Won't go into too much detail here, but there are some fundamental changes to get excited about.
Please go into detail here. Can you go into too much detail? I would like that.
A new modular approach to the rules means you only have to learn the rules you need when you need them.
Okay, we've heard this, they've mentioned this specifically in the article as well. Modular approach to the rules. Could this be kind of what Vince and them were talking about months and months and months ago, where you use this much of the rules for this, and then you can add this, and now it's matched play, and then you can add this. Modular just means universal special rules. Oh, is that what it means? Like just keywording stuff, you mean? I wonder.
The rules are now more interactive, giving you opportunities to cast spells or even charge in your opponent's turn.
Okay. We do have some things that can already charge in the opponent's turn. They focus in on Ironjaws here because they have that rule. Blight Krieg can do it. Fucking, I don't know, somebody else can. There's a few armies that do that. But if they're talking about the core rules, that means we're adding that to the core. Interesting. And then what was the other thing? Cast spells in your opponent's turn. Yeah, the entire Cities of Sigmar army. Yeah, Fire Slayers can too. They dropped it here and there amongst armies. Countercharge City, baby. If only they used the tech they've laid down for battle packs that could have modular game rules and make literally everyone happy, but nah, they're going to trash that. Imagine a Stone Horde countercharging, then overwhelming charging. Ooh. Ugh. Ugh. Ooh. Getting some home improvement. Imagine a Stonehorn countercharging. I wasn't thinking about the application to my own rules. We're sitting up in our chair for this one. Also, casting spells in the opponent's turn, kind of interesting. Now you get choices between unbinding and casting, I suppose. Here's a thought. If you can cast spells in your opponent's turn, do spells wear off after only one turn instead of... You know how most spells are until your next hero phase? Are we doing away with that now? Is that an implication, maybe? That a spell lasts for one turn, your turn, and that's it, right? Or whatever turn it is, instead of both turns in a... Well, not necessarily both turns sometimes, but until your next hero. If they do that, maybe. So we're adding more, like, risk-reward, adding more... You could do this or you could do that. Just adding more choices, I guess. That's fine. Spells in phases, probably. Oh, you mean like we cast a spell in the charge phase? We cast a spell in the combat phase? Because I know they got rid of the casting spells in the hero phase equivalent in 40k. And then people were like, what if they did that for Age of Sigmar? And I said that wouldn't make sense. It makes sense maybe for 40k, since everybody isn't psychic. They can have their custom rules for the psychic people, but in Age of Sigmar is a lot more fantasy, kind of everyone has wizards. I would think that they would keep it. Maybe they didn't. Maybe it's a spell is essentially just an ability, where like you just use it in the phase that it matters and then it goes away. That would be a little sad, I think. To me, that would be a little sad if they did that. Having spells be essentially abilities with another name, you know? But I don't know. What do you guys think about that? It could be a lot of stuff, obviously. Like, that feels likely, but you don't hate it. That's how TOW does it. Could make the hero phase kind of like the combat phase is with alternating casts. You don't think they're going to do the 40k thing. You hate casting rolls, but they would need to stay if they wanted it to remain magic. Yeah, well, conceivably, the difference is you have, I mean, spells are an ability, kinda, right? They're just game design wise, except they're unreliable. You got to cast them. You got to succeed at a roll, and your opponent can try to stop you. So what spells are essentially is you have to jump through a few hoops to get an effect, and then there's other abilities that just work. This thing has an ability; it just does that. And so spells are at an inherent huge disadvantage from abilities that simply work. And the difference, at least on paper, would be, well, if it's harder to do and it's more unreliable and your opponent can fuck with you to stop it, then the payoff would have to be higher. They'd have to be more powerful, you know? That's the, I guess, risk reward you give yourself. MTG priority now in the AOS magic phase. You cast a spell in response. Yeah. Magic phase means planning your turn ahead based on what goes off or not. Yeah, I agree. Only great games. There sometimes you have a spell you're trying. Okay, I'm Slaves to Darkness. I cast the spell that gives my cavalry 3d6 charge. If that fails, like they auto unbind it or something, I'm just not gonna do what I was going to do because it couldn't work, right? But if that spell's a spell you cast in the charge phase now, how does your turn proceed? Well, all right, hero phase, do stuff, movement, get them into position, and then fail the spell, and now my guys are in the middle of an open field, their pants fall down, they're just screwed. I guess it makes planning harder in a way, but also more just 3 sheets to the wind. Here we go. I hope that works. I don't know how they're going to implement it. There could be a bunch of different ways they implement it, but it's interesting. So what you do is you forfeit and ask another player to a game. Turning it into abilities reduces interactivity, which could be counter to what they've been saying they want. I don't think it's... So when I say an ability with another name, I don't mean turning it into an ability. I mean, philosophically speaking, you have magic, and you try to cast it. Magic is special because it's a fantasy game, and so magic is special. And so you have abilities people can do, and that ability could have been a spell mechanically, and a spell could be an ability mechanically, but the closer you get magic to working like command abilities or just normal War Scroll abilities, I think the less special they become. That's what I mean when I say an ability with by any other name, I guess. Yeah, you need that ability milk from the milk store, from the DLC store for your game. You've run out of ability milk. You cannot activate that unit unless you wait another 2 hours or go onto the store shop. Buy some ability milk to juice them up in your phone game. It may be another way of separating old Hammer magic system from modern design, maybe. You hope it means you cast it in your hero and then use it later? Perhaps, yeah, like Mystic, or like how they changed Arcane Bolt to work. It's a spell you cast, and then you later on at the start of a phase forget to use it, because that's how that works. You forget to use it in probably 80% of all games worldwide. When someone casts Arcane Bolt, they at least forget to use it a little bit, like they remember during the phase, or maybe they forget entirely. Because delayed triggers are kind of inherently not great. It's much better for you to use something and have it work right when you're using it, just as far as like playability is concerned. Anyway, let's listen.
Meanwhile, changes to priority mean you'll pay a heavy cost if you want to take that tempting double turn. Plus, there's more impactful battlefield terrain.
What's the heavy cost if you want to take that double turn? Currently, the cost you pay for taking a double turn is that your opponent can double you back next. In general, that's the cost you pay for it, right? Is your opponent can double you back for it. And most of the cost you pay for double turns happens in list building. You take extra chaff, stuff like that. No battle tactic, according to spoilers. Yeah, I heard that too. Something about not scoring. I don't know exactly what it is. It could be you can't score objectives. It could be you can't score battle tactics. It could be neither of them. It could be one or the other. That was confirmed. Is it just battle tactics though? You can't score a battle tactic. All right. Now, a lot else could be changing. You know? But if taking a double meant you couldn't score battle tactics, and they just drop shipped that from China into current rule system, that would be so toxic that it would kind of rend the game apart in tournaments anyway, right? Because think about this. All right, the average Age of Sigmar tournament, unfortunately, uses battle tactics as a tiebreaker, which is stupid, but they do it. It's like the way it's always been, kind of. And that's problematic for a whole bunch of reasons. But imagine you win priority. You can give your opponent a double, and they lose the tournament. Like, they might still win the game, but you can sabotage their entire tournament. You give them a double, they can't score a battle tactic, so now they scored 4 out of 5 battle tactics, and they lose the tiebreaker for whatever place they were going to get. Oh, you can no longer get first place because your round 2 opponent gave you the double turn. Get fucking owned, right? So now they could write it in some way where only if you win and take it to get around that, maybe. They could make it so that battle tactics are not a tiebreaker, which would be ideal because it would just be a much better game if that weren't the case, right? There's all sorts of other things they could change. I'm just thinking about it, right? Kind of weird. Surely it will be only if you choose to take the double, not applying if you're given. Yeah, I mean, you never know. You just have to think about, oh, what if, and then what if the implications, right? Reminds me of how you intentionally play behind in some battle plans so you tank your opponent's score by nuking their objectives. Yeah, because if you give players control over tiebreakers, they are incentivized to exploit them. Which is why you don't want players in control of their tiebreakers as far as what happens during the game. Which is why that's a bad idea. One of the many. Because it promotes you playing in a certain way that's usually negative, or at least exploitative in a sense. Anyway, just thinking out loud. I heard another rumor though that we'll get to later.
terrain, streamlined army list building, a more reactive command system, and a new underdog mechanic to ensure nail-biting finishes to your games.
A new underdog mechanic, huh? So ostensibly, the double turn is an underdog mechanic. It's the comeback mechanic of this game. It doesn't always act like that. Sometimes it's the nail in a coffin when you're like super winning and then you just shut them out, right? But in general, the point of priority is to have it be a comeback mechanic. It can be. It's a comeback mechanic that can backfire or be used by anybody, which is the weird part. But I wonder what their underdog mechanic is. I think the game needs something like that. Yeah, the Alebeard. Yeah, the bad version of it is just if you're losing, here's this. You know, however they want to type the words to make rules text that means that if you're losing, basically, here's some shit. You know, here's a full meter, a bar meter, or something. Who knows what they'll do with it? But in general, comeback mechanics are probably good, especially for a game like this, where you're not playing best of 3 or you're not playing best of 5 or whatever. There's no sideboards that you can use. It's one single game. It's really long. All of this kind of coalesces around you don't really want shutouts, exactly. You want to give people a reason to have to play all 5 turns. And especially as it becomes turn 4 and turn 5, a reason for you not to be able to simply talk it out. Because it's an unsatisfactory ending to a game, even though it's the way you should basically do it. What about triumphs? Having fewer points than your opponent's list has nothing to do with whose list is better or which army is better or who's more likely to win. To be honest, the number of points people's lists are, 1960, 1970, 2000, you being down 40 points from your opponent has just nothing to do with who's disadvantaged in that game. Just nothing, right? Which is why triumphs are pretty minor. And why triumphs probably wouldn't be the underdog. Because I don't think you're an underdog if you're playing with fewer points than your opponent. If they're reasonably close, if they're within 100 or 80 or 60, that's just which army's points are more efficient at that point, They would have to correctly pinpoint the reason someone is losing and whether or not they really are losing or not. It's two things. So I wonder what that could be. Heywoah, they did something like this with 40k called basically hugely difficult missions that can get you a fuck ton of victory points and throws away all other missions on turn 3 onwards. No one uses it, called Gambit. Well, the problem is, if they're hugely difficult and you're losing real bad, you probably can't do anything hugely difficult because you're getting blown up, If it's the bottom of turn 3 and I have one Stonehorn left with 3 wounds left on him, and then some Mournfang, I probably can't accomplish anything important anyway. Because that's how bad I'm losing, right? But then if it was easy to do, people would just do it. So that's a pickle. That sentence was ass. Mine? Sorry, this is live. I was trying. Have 4 units in play doing jumping jacks type objectives where you have 3 units left and your opponent rinsed you? Yeah. I don't know about that. 75% of my guys are dead and my 3d6 charge spell hasn't gone off once. Yeah, and now they're asking me to make a 12-inch charge or something. Okay. Oh, you meant your sentence. Okay, fair enough. Nothing like coming back to all the commander deck upgrades you ordered before Adepticon. Oof, rip. Hey, next time. Next time, all the commanders. All the commander stuff.
With such a sweeping change to the rules for this new edition, battle tomes for the current edition of the game will cease to be valid. But don't worry. Every faction in the game will have a faction pack, which you can download for free on launch day. These contain everything you need to play, including...
Flesh Eater Court's players who just got familiar with their new rules, look at the screen for a moment. Bottom left. Alright, there you go. Rules gone. New index. Is this where I talk about indexes? I've already talked about indexes a lot, I guess, on other shows, but for the sake of SJ Arcade, putting up the VODs, indexes are a good idea. That's great. Having to slowly drip feed out battle tomes over the course of 3 entire years is a shit system that sucks for players. It sucks for the people who get their battle tome early, and then later on they just decide to invent a whole bunch of new mechanics and rules and start adding them to stuff, and your shit sucks. It sucks for the players who get them late and play with their brand new rules for all of 3 months before the new edition renders them obsolete. It sucks to play with the last edition's rules for 2.5 years waiting for your book. That sucks. So the idea of indexes are great. It's online. They can update it as they want. The edition comes out. Look at that. You should have new rules when a new edition comes out for everyone available right away. You should have that. Yes. Great work. It's a good idea. The potential problem, though, is threefold. One, we have been complaining for 8 years that the battle tomes, anthropomorphizing Games Workshop, the company, a little bit here, have been criticized as lazy in the past. A lot of copy and pasting, a lot of stuff that feels like a slam dunk could have fixed it. Nah, don't bother. A lot of bizarre choices. A lot of stuff like you're kind of scratching your head. Who would ever choose this? You wrote all these artifacts. No human would ever choose to play with them. You wasted your own time rotting them and my time reading them. What are you doing? This unit has no job. Why? This battle trait that's central to the army doesn't really jive with how the army is seemingly supposed to play. On and on and on, right? We've had complaints. And every edition, we're like, all right, this next battle tome, I hope it's a lot better than the old one, because it had some big problems, Had access to 18 artifacts, and now you have access to 6, or you used to have access to 6, and now you have 3, and all this other stuff, right? And they only give you 3, and they still can't make 3 good choices. What's happening here? Like, why? And in our when we're anthropomorphizing a company, we call it lazy, but actually, for sure, they just aren't given enough time or something. That's my excuse. I'm holding a cross to a vampire. I'm trying to grab onto something. They're obviously just not given enough time to work on this. And whoever the boss is that looks at it and says, yes, this is what I wanted, correct, I agree, pass it forward, their idea of what's okay is just different than ours, right? I guess. And so now you get indexes. Is the index going to be better than the last battle tome was? Because if it's not, that sucks. Because if it's just as good as the last battle tome was, that's still not okay, because it was subpar work. It was a bad job for a lot of them. And even the good battle tomes are half just like, what are you doing? what is that? What are you doing? You know? So my concern with indexes are they're going to be a lot of copy pasting, a lot of just deleting stuff. You know, circle the wagons around whatever thing your army is known for in general. And, oh, this cool thing that needed a little bit of iteration, just delete it, fuck it, you know, make everything kind of the same. I don't know. So the concern is that the indexes are rushed, say, simplified in the bad way. A lot of copy pasting, a lot of just whatever. When we always kind of wanted the rules to get better each time, you know, not necessarily more powerful, just more complete, more like, here's a unit that sucked for 7 years, right? And then a new book comes out and it sucks. It's like, what are you doing, right? Anyway, so the concern I think people have with indexes are they're just going to phone it in, which is a valid concern. But I think the idea of indexes is a great idea. Good. Yes, agree. Yeah. What is a battle tome going to be then? That's my next question. Because if a battle tome is going to be just the lore and art and painting guides, a large percentage of the players have no reason to buy it. Because who's going to spend $50 on lore you can look up on Wikipedia, some painting guides, when you could just go to Warhammer Vince Venturella's channel and learn how to paint, and some pictures of stuff, right? So I have an index. Later on, my battle tome comes out. Probably the battle tome is going to have an expanded rule set. And so we kind of do get all the way back to the same problem that we used to have, right? Now, instead of people complaining about playing with last edition's rules, they complain about playing with the shitty phoned-in index rules for 2 years, right? So it kind of didn't really end up solving the problem in the first place, right? Or the new battle tome comes out and the rules are just better, which kind of implies that the indexes aren't going to... So who knows? I wonder about that. Battle tome should just be art books and lore, then no one buys it. It's useless. By no one, I don't mean literally no one, but if you put rules in there, there's a reason for everyone to get it that plays the game. And if you don't, it's basically a collector's item, which is what people flippantly say they are already because of Wahapedia and other things. Right. Maybe that's fine. It's better for the players if that's the case. If your battle tome is just a collector's item, it's like, I want a cool thing on my shelf. It's got cool front cover art. It's filled with a million things. It's a collector piece. I buy this because I want a special edition of something, you know? And the rules are identical to the index, say. Maybe that's fine. I wonder if that works for a business model for them or not. But I'm not a businessman. I don't know. I think they have a factory that makes books, so they're pretty tied to the book thing. Haven't people been asking for free rules online? Yeah. I mean, sure. People are asking for free rules online. That would be great. I want free models online too. Can you do that? You think the factory for books is in China? I could have sworn they had their own book factory very recently. But I guess I don't know the location of their own book factory. So who knows? Maybe it's like the battle tome comes out and then they update the index with the new battle tome rules. I don't know. One of the complaints about battle tomes people have is, Why would I buy this? It's $50. I can get the rules elsewhere. Who want? And after the first FAQ, some of the rules are different anyway, right? Which isn't the most illegitimate complaint either. I think indexes make battle tomes even more obsolete than they kind of were already. I don't know. I'm not a businessman. You think you trust Matt Rose? I think I do too. He's surrounded by a lot of suit-wearing people above him and beside him that have done it a certain way a lot forever that he has to answer to. But maybe we have to trust in Matt Rose once he's finally part of the making the stuff in the first place instead of just fixing it afterwards with his hands tied. So, I mean, who knows? One of the comments from You Think Matt Rose in the reveal video was that they wanted the War Scrolls to reflect how the unit should actually play. Yeah. That sounds very that's one of those like out of context, really obvious things, but sure. Who's Matt Rose? The lead game designer, I think, is his title for Age of Sigmar. Very recently. He was hired after 3rd edition. And after almost all the battle tomes were done, I think. And so he was in charge of balancing the game. American dude? No, Canadian. And so he was in charge of kind of balancing the game and the seasons. And what were the seasons? They were obviously beta tests to see what people liked and didn't like for 4th edition, right? And I believe he finally had a hand in the 4th edition rules and battle tomes, but I can't speak personally to that. Casual Karn, thanks to the tier 1 for 6 months. I appreciate it. TY. Indexes would be so good if they just didn't resume the book cycle. Yeah, if they simply did indexes and that's how the rules for the whole game just worked, to me that would be the best outcome. Monkey Paw, you get the rules online. They're tied to Warhammer Plus subscription. Ugh. Well, then again, it would be the first thing worth paying for on the Warhammer Plus sub. Got him. Books make them too much money. They probably do, yeah.
Including War Scrolls for your units, battle traits, battle formations...
Battle formations? No such thing exists right now. That's new.
Battle formations, heroic traits, artifacts of power...
Heroic traits, so we're changing it from command traits. Just a different name, probably.
Prayers, spells, and much more.
Oh, they zoom in on the cross-eyed lady.
Points values won't be printed in faction packs, but will be available online at launch.
All right, great, good. That's correct. The salty bets guy. You'd still buy battle tomes if they just had lore, because you're part of the people who buy battle tomes for that. Yeah, there is a demographic of people who buy battle tomes mostly for the lore. I think that's probably small, but it does exist. It's good. When's launch, Lois? Heywoah, sorry if I missed it. Thoughts on Thunderstrike armoring the Fatcast OGs? What do you mean by this? Do you mean like doing a refresh of Stormcast? No. Your old stuff looks bad, in my opinion, and would deserve a refresh, maybe, if it weren't for almost every other army in the game being more in need of that for longer. Stormcast is overserved. Chill with the stuff you have for the next 10 years and then call me. Is my opinion on it. That's not the case. They'll be getting new stuff forever, but that's my opinion. 10 years? Yes. Roughly half the time everybody else has been waiting. And they've gotten quadruple the model range in the last 10 years as everyone else. So really, it would still even out. to be them a little ahead. You know what? If it takes less than 10 years to give everybody else how much Stormcast has gotten, then we can start early. No big deal. I'm just talking about sculpts, obviously. You loved the thick cast Eternals? Almost. Okay, that is a very unpopular opinion. However, I will reach across the aisle and shake your hand for Retributors, like the original Paladins with that curved shoulder plate. Those guys looked cool, I think. So that's where I'll agree with you on that one. The Retributors looked awesome. And the Relictor looked awesome. Castellan looked awesome in a overdone, too humongous kind of way. Everybody else trash in my opinion, but there you go. You wonder how much Stormcast must sell to justify constant Stormcast releases? Just a little more than everyone else, or a lot more than everyone else, you know. It's probably a lot. S. Crick, thanks for the follow. I appreciate it. Maybe it's just a matter of SCE being treated correctly and everyone else just not. Yeah, but they're probably operating under limited resources, right? I'm looking for the percentages to get evened out a little more, but, you know.
Meaning you can still use your rules even if points values need tweaking in the future. At its core, Warhammer Age of Sigmar remains the ultimate tabletop fantasy game. Match play fans will find all of the battle plans and tactics from the new General's Handbook included in the launch box.
Oh, we're starting with a launch box has a General's Handbook, so we're beginning with a General's Handbook. Cool. Maybe General's Handbook is what matched play means now, basically. Well, it kind of did before. Cool. All right. Hey, good.
While Path to Glory has been revamped.
I love this artwork. Always loved this art. What a great picture. I used it in at least 2 of my videos. Such a good one.
Glory has been revamped to focus on the progression of your heroes and units as your army gains power.
All right, Path to Glory. Getting a little more of that RPG stuff in it. Neat. You're still salty, Beastclaw. I haven't gotten an Underworld's Warband since Hrothgorn, some guy man-trapper. I kind of am and I kind of am not, I guess. The whole point of Beastclaw is that everything is huge and mounted. And when it comes to a warband, it would have to be like one Mournfang. Like one Mournfang and a dog, right? And maybe even that would be too much. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't play Warcry, so of course I don't care, but 3 updated Yetis, maybe? I don't know.
We're super excited about what lies ahead for the Mortal Realms, and we've got loads more to show you. Make sure to keep your eyes on the Warhammer community website.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Lewis. One Mournfang pulling a sled full of Noblars. Noblars are not part of Beastclaw. Get them out of here. That's Gutbuster shit. Get them out of here. Juvenile stone, like a Stonehorn pup. It's like 6 feet tall, but it's like all chibified with big old eyes and stuff and little tiny horns. It has like 40 wounds or something in Warcry. That'd be kind of silly. Play Gutbusters and have 40 painted Noblars. Please remove them entirely. They're really good mechanically. Damn. To be honest, one of the biggest strengths of Gutbusters as an army is 2 units of 20 Noblars. However sad that is up to personal preference, but that's good. That's strong. The fact that Beastclaw can't use something like that properly is one of the reasons why it's a little worse than Gutbusters. A baby Stonehorn on top. Yeah, and a little baby Thundertusk. Swaggy Shadow. What's up, Heywoah? Nice to meet you at Adepticon. Oh, cool. Yeah. I'm bad with names, so I don't know who you are, but I appreciate... There were a bunch of people at Adepticon were like, hey, I like your stuff, and getting a picture and stuff, so I always appreciate that, even though I'm weird. I always appreciate that. So TY, thanks for liking my stuff. As someone looking at Gutbusters, that makes you sad because Noblars aren't big. You are right. Yeah, that's why I don't like them, because they're not big. But, you know, mechanically as an army, they're pretty strong. Not enough destruction factions since we lost Skaven. And they already kind of worship the Morgar as chaos, so United is just soup. They can use Kragnos, who already looks the part. And it's too late for any of that, but Beast of Chaos worship chaos. That's why they're in chaos. I hate to be so repetitive, but that's just how, you know, it makes sense. So they shouldn't be in destruction, because they worship chaos. And who you worship is just, that's what Grand Alliance you're in. It's same with Skaven. The Great Horned Rat's a chaos god. They worship a chaos god. They're in chaos. Now they're chaotic and they're crazy and they like to destroy stuff, but you're not in a Grand Alliance because of your philosophies and your post hoc rationalization. You're in a Grand Alliance because of the god you worship, nothing else, right? So probably mean just change the stuff, just have the Great Horned Rat not be a chaos god, and then now they're in destruction, but then they'd have to worship Gorka Morka. That'd be weird. If Noblars could be eaten by heroes to heal a tyrant's wounds or something, you might care. I'm surprised they don't have that mechanic already since first edition, right? Horned Rat is now officially a big chaos god, so we're committed, you know, now we're committed to the bit. You hope Slays the Darkness can take the mark of the Great Horned Rat now that Arcan has accepted him as a true chaos. Dude, that's actually kind of sick. Hold up. You. Keep talking. I like that one. That's just going to happen, right? That makes sense to me. Imagine Slaves to Darkness marked with the Skaven. That's cool. On their big rune shields. That's kind of cool. That could work. He's an official chaos god after all, right? Kinda interesting.